to the Spheres of Spirit with Nancy Myers, aka the Lady of the Light. Nancy will discuss the everyday magic and wisdom of spirit which surrounds each of us, waiting to be discovered. She will share some of her remarkable orb photos, proving that our angels, guides, loved ones in spirit, and even pets surround us and guide us in our physical world. During this episode, Nancy will discuss one of the many spheres or aspects of spirit available to us based on her orb photography. She will also share a special channeled message from her guide, Leonini, and do an oracle card reading to help guide you along your personal spiritual adventure. And now, here is your host, orb photographer, author, medium, and speaker, Nancy Myers.
Hi, welcome to my show. I want to thank you for spending some time with me today. You know, when I started this show called The Spheres of Spirit, I promised to tell you that stories and information from my experiences and my visions and my dreams. And that's what I'm going to do today. I recently went to Mount Shasta in California with some friends. And we got together and met up there, and because it's supposed to be a quote unquote spiritual hotspot. So I'm going to tell you about that trip, but first let me tell you about Mount Shasta itself and why it's considered a spiritual hotspot. So Mount Shasta is about 45 miles from the Oregon border in California. It's in the end of the Cascade Range. Mount Shasta is considered to be an active volcano. It hasn't erupted for 700 or 800 years, and the average is about every 800 years. So we might be due for a volcanic eruption. But Mount Shasta is not the tallest mountain, but it is one of the widest. So the base of Mount Shasta is actually 17 or 18 miles in diameter. And if that ever goes, they said it would be match or exceed the scale of the 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption. So it's a big, powerful place just because of all that lava and magnetic flow there. So Mount Shasta's vast mythic relevance actually places it equally with some of the other well-known sites around the world, including civilizations and temples of Egypt, Stonehenge of England, the Mayan pyramids, and Machu Picchu of Peru. It is said that the north side of Mount Shasta has been inhabited since 600 BC, possibly 2500 BC. And how do they know that? Is because they found artifacts in the area attributed to the native tribes that suggest 9,000 years of occupation by those tribes. Mount Shasta back then was considered a kind of a corner territorial boundary of four important tribes there. One of them was the Shasta, the Modoc, the Atsuwiji, and the Wintu. Those were the tribes that were up there. But from a philosophical and spiritual standpoint, Shasta is far more powerful and impressive than anything ever built by man. Those other temples that I mentioned, those were built by man, or ETs, depending on which belief you subscribe to. But Mount Shasta is a creator-made temple and monument that is 500 million years old itself. So the Native Americans have observed Mount Shasta as a sacred mountain as far as they can remember. They viewed the mountain and its surrounding literally as holy ground. It is thought to be, by the Native Americans, the first place that God created on earth, and he used it as a stepping stone. Each year, to this day, the tribes come and do a ceremony, a sacred ceremony. And what they do is ask for the continual flow of the sacred springs, which we're going to get into in a minute. Now, in the past, um, no one but medicine men or medicine women climbed up the mountain beyond the tree line. It was considered sacrilegious, if you will, to do that if you were not a spiritual person. Um, Now, the significance for us outside of the Native Americans, and our recognition of Mount Shasta and the popularity of that, though, didn't really start until the 19th century, so in the 1800s. And one of the person that brought to light um, was John Muir, the naturalist. And he described the mountain's peak also as a religious icon. And this is his quote when he first saw the mountain. When I first caught sight of Mount Shasta over the braided folds of the Sacramento Valley, I was 50 miles away and afoot, alone and weary. Yet all my blood turned to wine, and I have not been weary since. So he literally felt intoxicated in a spiritual sense of coming upon the mountain. Now, there are many tangible and intangible qualities which make a mountain sacred, and some of these go beyond its mere appearance. Shasta isn't the tallest, but it is one of the most legendary. So, the word Shasta, it is said, is a modern spelling of the name of one of the Native American tribes. It says our connection has been lost and it's reconnecting, but I'm going to keep talking. So, uh, the name, the Native American tribes, they first spelled it as Sastis. And Chris said I'm okay to keep going, so I'll keep going. Sastis then was changed into Shasta. Now, the Spanish explorer by the name of Gabriel Moraga in 1808 came upon this area. Now, also, what you hear about Mount Shasta a lot is its healing waters. There are many falls, many lakes, many rivers. And in fact, the mighty Sacramento River headwaters come out of the side of the mountain. And we went there. But when this explorer, Spanish explorer Gabriel Moraga, saw this, he too felt that it was a sacred site. And he named it the Rio de los Sacramento. So, um, what is Okay, I'm back. Okay. So what is a sacrament? I wanted to look that up. What is when he says it's a holy sacrament? So I looked up the word sacrament, and it's a sacrament is something regarded as um, possessing a sacred character or mysterious significance. And I thought that truly described what these people were describing and felt. And so, one of the things, again, with that healing water, and the water that comes out of Mount Shasta, by the way, at the headwaters, we collected it. It's one of the purest waters you can find. Everybody comes and fills their jugs and drinks this water. And oh, is it delicious? But anyway, so we hiked to one of these places. And one of the places that we hiked to was a place called Moss Bray Falls. And Bray is a Celtic word meaning hillside, and moss is moss. And I have to tell you, and I'm going to get into this in a minute, but before tales of the mystic Lemurians who lived beneath Mount Shasta came into existence, um, there were tales of Mount Shasta's legendary healing waters, which attracted droves of urban tourists to the area in the 1850s. So they came in to partake and bathe and drink and surround themselves. Even the air Some people describe it as being, oh, what was the one said? Like a liquid gold of being around in the air. So you see that even before the I'll call it the new age thought of Mount Shasta and attraction, people were attracted there because of the sacredness and because of the healing waters. So, one of the most famous resorts was called Shasta Springs, and this was back in the 1800s, and it was directly above this Moss Spray Falls. Its waters had been known and used for their magic and medicinal qualities. Legend credits the waterfall and springs as being created by, again, the Great Spirit. Um, the spirit, they says, reside in the tradition. Oh, sorry. This falls area resides in the traditional territory of the Wintu Native American tribes, and the springs were venerated as an abode of good spirits and were also well known as a source of powerful healing. They think that it was kind of like a fountain of youth, if you will. So bathing and drinking is, everybody wanted a bit of the fountain of youth. So we hike there, and I have to tell you, and it was a bit of a hike. And it was during the day, and I'll show you a picture here in a second. But we come around the corner and we have to go down, and there's part of the Sacramento River, and then up above, oh gosh, I don't know, maybe 2 football fields long is this hill, pretty high, and it's covered in moss. And wherever the moss is covered is water's coming out. And I thought, wow, this feels so special. So I did take a picture. So, Chris, if we can get that first picture. And now I don't normally get orbs during the day, but I was just taking it to share the beautiful falls. And this is only a part of them. It goes on to the right of the picture and it goes on to the left of the picture. I myself have never seen waterfalls come out of moss, but and the air, it feels so ionized. You just want to take it in. But anyway, at the very top of there, in the middle of the picture, you can see the orb. So are there good spirits there? Well, according to my orb photography, there sure is. So I wanted to share that one with you. I'm going to talk about Mount Shasta, and if you ever get an opportunity to go, please do. It is so magnificent and so beautiful. And depending on where you are on the mountain, you see different terrain, different landscape, different vistas. It's just quite incredible. But I wanted to tell you why I went and how it came to be. When I was in Portugal, and I'm sure many of you listening to me believe or have had synchronicities. Well, my synchronicities started when I went to Portugal 2 years ago, and I met the most amazing group of women, 4 other women, and we just bonded. And when we came back, we stayed in touch. And so we decided, you know what, we need to meet up again. Now we come from all over. There's 2 in Canada, 1 in the Midwest, 1 in Colorado, and me in California. So we decided we were going to go to Mount Shasta, and we trying to coordinate all the dates with everybody. Is kind of difficult. So we picked the dates, and we did not realize that the dates that we picked were during the 888, the Lionsgate portal, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But then we started talking about our connection, each of us, to a lion or to uh, the Egyptian lion goddess Sekhmet, or my guide Leonini, which is little lion. So we had this amazing synchronicity, and then then we were off to the races. Even I picked up one gal and we drove up together because it was a 9-hour drive for me, and where I picked her up, she gave me an address, and I had to get off on Lion Avenue. I went, okay, this is a sign. And then all the way up there. And if you've followed some of my podcast, you know about angel numbers and um, sacred numbers and numerology. Everything we saw was 444 or 44 or 11 or 1111. So we knew we were being guided up there. So, I mean, that's how the trip started. So I knew it was going to be special. So, okay, back to Mount Shasta. Whenever I go to a sacred site, whether it be in the United States or all over the world, I do not do research because I want to discover it um, and have it unfold in front of me. I don't want to go with any preconceived ideas. So one of the things that I did not know is that Mount Shasta is has a a legend about the Lemurians. Now, if you haven't heard about the Lemurians, they were kind of an equal to Atlantis, it is said. It is said that they had their own civilization. I think they were in the Pacific. It kind of went back and forth. But the myth and lure of the Lemurian people was made popular by the founder of Theosophy, Madame Blavatsky, and she said that there was an advanced race of people from the lost continent of Lemuria. Now, I got to tell you, here's a disclaimer for me or something to think about. Um, I believe in Atlantis because there's so much about it, and it goes all the way back to Plato. And so I wanted to find out, what is this history of Lemuria? Well, the name Lemuria was developed by, let me see if I can find his, uh, let's see. I'm trying to find the man's why they were in Madagascar or how they got to Madagascar was because at one time there was a land bridge and the animals could go back and forth or something. He was trying to explain, the primates and their evolution and where they were located. And so he called them the Lemurians. So that's kind of where it started. But then it kind of took off and became popular in the New Age, mainly because of Madame Blavatsky. And in 1925, there was a 2-page article that came out by this man named Sylvius, and he called it The Descendants of Lemuria. And this document, this article, is said to be the single most important document in establishing the modern Mount Shasta Lemurian myth. This man, Sylvius, claims that there was a professor, his name was Edgar Larkin, who saw the Lemurian site through his telescope and for many years observed them. And he said that they had a great temple underneath um, Mount Shasta, jewel encrusted, and it was called Telos. So that's one way that this myth started. And then in 1931, there was another writer named Cerve, Cerve, and he published The Lost Continent of the Pacific, The Mystery People of Mount Shasta. So again, that's how these myths started with the Lemurians. Cerve wrote, he described them. He said that Lemurians were tall, graceful, and agile with larger heads, and that they came to town and would interact with the people of Shasta. Now, in 1894, there was a book called The Dweller on Two Planets, and the writers said that, again, Mount Shasta was the last refuge of the Lemurians, and they lived there in these caves. So, there's these 3 people, different times, that all claim that Lemurians were there. Since then, there's many people that now channel the Lemurians that say they're in contact with Lemurians. My mantra is with God, all things are possible. Like Wayne Dyer says, what does that leave out? Nothing. So, do I believe that Lemurians could have been a lost race and still exist under the mountain at Mount Shasta? Yeah. And I'm going to show you why. So, if we could bring up the next photo, Chris. So now I have to tell you something too. Being an orb photographer, I get a lot of pictures like this, and you can see this little light at the bottom of the picture. Now, I am shooting directly into the sun, and you'll see a blue dot off on the right side of the picture. That's not an orb, that's lens flare. And I would always tell people, I don't know, if you're shooting into the light, you're going to get a lens flare. And then I started getting pictures from all over the world of people who were shooting into the light, but the light was forming into these incredible images like faces, crosses, geometric patterns. And so I'm starting to rethink, because when spirit talks to us and communicates with us, they have to use what we have. So, can they manipulate lens flare to get a message across or to make themselves visible? I think maybe so. And why I'm telling you that is because when I took that picture and I zoomed in, if we can go to the next picture, Chris. And again, these will be posted here on Ohm Times and on my website. But at the bottom, can you see this kind of spindly body? It's kind of in the yellowy orange area, and a big head. Now, how did that guy describe the Lemurians? Agile with larger than normal heads. So, did I capture a Lemurian? Perhaps. Perhaps. I have never seen anything like this, and I've never seen lens flare do this. So this was kind of eye-opening for me. So thank you, Chris, for that. So like I said, one of the main things that we went up there for was, of course, to experience the sacredness of Mount Shasta. And, whenever I'm around those places, I always have the funniest dreams or experiences or photos, synchronicities, and Mount Shasta was no exception. But one of the last nights that we spent was on 8/8/2024. So if you add up 2024, it's 8. So it's 08 or 888, which is a very, very powerful number. Now, what is Lionsgate? Why is that important? I wanted to know. I have heard of Lionsgate, and I knew we were going to be up there at Lionsgate, but I didn't really know the history or what it meant. So here's what I found. First of all, the number 888 in numerology means everything is as it should be, and abundance. 8 is known as the powerhouse number, and it acts as a bridge between the material and spiritual realms. So it's also the number of power and wealth. So Lionsgate portal is an astrological term which describes the alignment of the sun in the constellation Leo. The star Sirius, which is the brightest star seen from Earth, and the constellation Orion's belt and the Earth. Technically, this alignment happens between July 8th and August 12th. So you feel the effects. So what do people say is because of that alignment, that it allows the energy to come through to Earth. That's the portal. That's why it creates that portal. Culminates on 8/8, but the effects are felt before and after 8/8. So it is said that during the Lionsgate portal, Sirius separates sufficiently from the sun to come into view. And since Sirius is the brightest star in our night sky, mystics believes it infuses the earth with extra energy and light. So it's almost a time of, if you will, upgrading us and helping us to raise our vibration and increase our spiritual awareness. So that's kind of the importance of the Lion's Gate. So on 8/8, we literally went with a gentleman who's lived on the mountain for 30 some years, and he does tours, and he was doing a special ceremony at a very special place. I'm looking at the clock. I think I'm going to go through this, and then we'll do a break. So there's a place called Red Fir Flat. Now, we did this in the evening. And so you park at this area, and then you hike. And you hike, maybe a mile or so, and you come to this large outcropping of these boulders. And they look so out of place. It's the only place that I saw where these and they're large boulders exist. And I have a picture of them, and I'm going to show you in just a minute. But we're sitting there and we're doing meditations, and the sun is setting. It was beautiful up there. And I had my eyes closed. And, it's funny where you pick to sit or whatever. There's never any coincidence. So I'm sitting there in the meditation, and I halfway through, I hear, "Open your eyes." So I open my eyes and I'm looking around, and I went, "Oh my gosh, it's a lion." So if we can bring that next picture up, Chris. Now, I hope you can see this because I did not outline it. It's a lion looking to the left. You can see his eyes. You can see his and he's kind of got his head like this. And I thought, am I making this up? So after the meditation, I positioned my friends where I was. I said, "Guys, look, what do you see?" And there's a lion. So what are the odds on 888? We're sitting having a meditation. I look up, and a lion appears in this quote unquote pile of boulders. Now, I have to tell you, when I show you the picture of the whole thing and I pull back, I looked at that and I thought, this is pretty similar to some of the ancient temples I've seen, like in Peru, because you could see horizontal cracks. They look like blocks piled on each other, and I was wondering, is this an ancient temple? Was this man-made here? Was this ancient holy site? And I think it's possible. So let me break here because I have another story when we're up there, and I'll be right back. Hang in there. Thanks.
Home Times TV. The story told in Entering the Light Fantastic, Discovering Life After Life Through Orbs, is about Nancy Meyer's spiritual and emotional rising from the devastating ashes of loss caused by the sudden and unexpected passing of her son Robbie. Just like the legend of the reborn phoenix, Nancy's life purpose and focus was transformed. With the help from her son in spirit, Nancy found herself providing proof through orbs that our souls do not die with our bodies. In her second book, Encircled by the Light Fantastic, A Deeper Journey into the Light with Orbs, Nancy continues chronicling her path of gaining spiritual knowledge and expanding acceptance of what is possible, while traveling to many sacred and ancient sites around the world. She shares these experiences with you along with her photographs of remarkable spirit encounters. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself Invest in your brand and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
¿Qué color? Perfecto, mijo.
Gracias. Thank you.
What's wrong, mijo?
Donating to a pet's medical care is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
And we're back. Okay, so to continue our journey in Mount Shasta, one of the other things that I learned about Mount Shasta is there's a strong connection to Saint Germain. Now, I don't know if all of you have heard of Saint Germain. He's considered to be an ascended master, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But there is a connection with Saint Germain. And when we were on the mountain with our guide on another day, we were hiking, and he says, I'm going to take you to the place that's called Saint Germain's Circle. And this is the spot where he was seen. And as we're walking up the hillside, our guide points out these beautiful purple flowers. And he said, these flowers only bloom 2 weeks out of the year, and they're late this year. And they happen to bloom when we were there. So we hike up to the circle, and he tells us about the legend of Saint Germain, and we did a meditation there, and the view was absolutely stunning. But here's the information about Saint Germain's appearance, and then we'll go into who Saint Germain is in a little bit. In a book in 1934 by a gentleman named Guy Ballard, and he used the pen name of Godfrey King, he published a novel, autobiographical novel entitled Unveiled Mysteries. And in it, he described his meeting with what he called the timeless ascended master, Saint Germain. Now, timeless is important. On the slope of Mount Shasta. The book told about the mountain, what they discussed, the teachings of the spiritual teacher on the mountain. So it was more than one meeting with this man. And Mount Shasta now is legendary as the home of ascended masters. And it is said that saints and angelic beings have revealed themselves over the centuries on this mountain. Ancient legends of Mount Shasta reveal this holy site as where ancient ones lived in heaven and on earth. As they did, just like in Greek mythology in Mount Olympus. The ascended master, Saint Germain's energy, continuously radiates from what they call the Temple of the Violet Flame. And they say this is deep in the recesses of the mountain also. Purple is associated with the ascended master, Saint Germain. And it says many people all over the world see these mysterious lights and glowing energy emissions from the sacred mountain. And there is a church and I don't want to call it a spiritual following, very strong spiritual following of Saint Germain in the town of Mount Shasta. You know, I have to tell you, When we were at Mount Shasta, for me, I grew up in the 60s, right? 70s. And um, I felt like I was walking back in time. It had a very hippie feel to it. But everybody who lived there was so happy and so laid back and so relaxed. And our guide says, yeah, it's called Shastia. And it's a condition that you get when you hang out on the mountain. So that peacefulness is very palpable. So anyway, so that's who is also associated with the mountain is Saint Germain, but other ascended masters. So let's go back up to what they call the Temple of Love, back above Red Fir Valley at the boulders. And we finished up, and I always lag behind because I always like to take pictures. And so as I was walking away, the sun was really starting to set. And I took a picture of where we were. So if we can bring up that next picture, Chris, and then you can see. So you see the big boulders and the squareness and the horizontal lines. Now I'm sure if this was ever a man-made temple, it is surely, in a state of disrepair and ruin. But there's just so many things there that go, ooh, this could have been that or that. So I took a picture, and you can see the orb on the right side of the picture, and it's kind of a golden yellow picture. And I was all excited, and I thought for sure, this is special. This has got to be special. So I zoomed in. So if we can bring in the next picture there, Chris. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me, Chris? There we are. Okay, so I zoomed in on the yellow gold orb. And as you can see, the picture on the left is a close-up of the orb, and I see clearly a man with a beard and a turban and a thing in the middle of his turban. And I've tried to draw it on the other image so you can get your eyes looking in the right area. And I looked at that and I thought, well, that's not Saint Germain. Saint Germain doesn't wear a turban. So I'm going, who is that? So if we can bring up that next slide, Chris, because I have him paired up with. Now, I researched, and another ascended master who I was not familiar with is named El Moria, Morya. And he served tirelessly with Saint Germain in the cause of world and individual freedom, training public servants to externalize the will of God through God government on earth, as they put it. So he's here to also help people advance in their spiritual paths. And when I read that he worked with Saint Germain, I went, wow. So to me, this is El Mora. Now, who is El Mora? He is one of the masters of the ancient wisdom. And again, back to the theosophical beliefs. He's believed by those followers to be one of the Mahatmas, if I'm saying that right, who inspired the founding of the Theosophical Society and was involved in their in bringing them along. So, is Mount Shasta, thank you, Chris, is Mount Shasta home to ascended masters? Yeah, I think so. I wanted to talk about, and I'll just keep this 2 or 3 minutes, but again, I tell you, I always share from my experiences, and I do have a connection with Saint Germain, and I'll tell you briefly what it is. And then I have another story about what he does and why he's associated with the color purple. So I was in class, and it was a mediumship development class, and we were supposed to get up and stand in the middle of the circle and pick somebody out to read. Now, I'm an orb photographer, but most of the time I only see orbs on my camera. It's been rare, only a handful of times, that I have actually seen orbs with my eyes. So the teacher said, "Okay, Nancy, it's your turn. Get up." Now this was beginning in my development, so even just standing in the middle of the circle, having to do readings in front of everybody petrified me. But right before I got up, I looked at my teacher and I went, "Oh my gosh." And I could see this beautiful violet orb over her head. Now, she had the ability to tap in to what I was seeing and talking about. And she goes, "I know what you just saw. Tell me what you saw." And I told her. And she said, "Yes. And who is that?" And I'm looking around and I went, "It's Saint Germain." Now, I had never had any contact with Saint Germain. Um, I had never talked to any ascended master or higher spirit of the realms, if you will. So when I heard I'm Saint Germain, I almost didn't want to. Then she said, "What is he saying?" And so then I did get some messages from him that verified it was him and her connection. And she later told me he is one of her guides. So that's my connection to Saint Germain. And one of my experiences. So Saint Germain, I wanted to tell you what is an ascended master, um, the definition, because ascended masters are beings who were at one time considered humans. They had incarnated, but completed what they call the sixth initiation or ascension process. And this allows them, they say, to dwell in the 6D realm, the sixth dimensional realm. Um, Ascended masters include, of course, Jesus, Buddha, Yogananda, uh, Quan Lin, um, uh, and many others. In fact, I have a whole deck of oracle cards of ascended masters, but that's who ascended masters are, and they come back and help us in this realm to progress. So, but Saint Germain, he's an amazing man, ascended master now. And I don't have time today. Maybe I'll do a show on just ascended masters, but I wanted to explain that Saint Germain is known as the ascended master who is the keeper of the sacred violet flame of healing. That's why he came in as a violet orb. There are others, but he's the one who handles what they call the violet flame. When I first started this, and here's another experience of mine. When I first started this path, I did a shamanic workshop, and we did a journey. And we were supposed to, and the teacher drummed, and we were supposed to go into this meditation. And she said, "What you're going to do is you're going to meet a guide, and then he or she is going to give you a gift." And me and my little monkey brain go, "Yeah, okay, right." So I go, "I don't think I can do this." But anyway, so she starts drumming, and sure enough, I meet in front of this man who looked to be East Indian. It could have been Babaji, and and so I acknowledged him, and I said, "You have a gift for me," and I'm doing this all in my mind. And he held out his hand, and it looked like a white feather. Now, at the time, I had a thing with feathers. So I went, "Oh, nice, a white feather." And I went to reach for it, and he grabbed it back and put it behind his back. And he said, "No, this is not a feather." He kind of yelled at me. "This is the white flame." Here's what we do. There's 7 flames. This is my explanation. First is the blue flame, and it's associated with Archangel Michael. Okay. Then there's a yellow flame, and it is associated with the Archangel Jophiel. There's a pink flame, which is associated with the Archangel Shamuel. And there is a white flame, which is also associated with the Archangel Gabriel, or I say Gabriel. There's the green flame, which is associated with Raphael, that's healing. And then there's the golden flame, which is associated with the Archangel Uriel. And there's the purple flame, which is associated with certain parts. They're used for certain things, and I don't have time to go into all that today. But the violet flame is an invisible spiritual fire energy that acts in the physical world for purification. So that's why Saint Germain wields the violet flame. So I think it'd be fun to do a show on the violet flames, or on all 7 flames. And there's also 7 rays of light, different than the flames. So maybe one show I'll go into that and explain the difference. This is pretty deep dive into woo-ness, you guys. But because this came up in my Mount Shasta trip, I was told I needed to share it with you. I highly, highly recommend that, if you want to learn more about Saint Germain or the Ascended Masters, or even the sacred flames, the 7 sacred flames, please do your own research, start your own journey, because things will jump out at you that you need to know, that you need to be aware of. From who I believe was Babaji, was for spiritual growth. And, and it was the perfect time for me to receive that. So, it's really, there's so much that we have that's been hidden from us, that's now coming to light, no pun intended. And we need to learn about it, embrace it, and to integrate it into our lives. So, I wanted to read Leonini's message. I always sit and I get a message from Leonini, and she does have a sense of humor. And for those of you who don't know, when I start and I ask Leonini, okay, I want a message for the podcast, are you here? Well, first it feels like there's a feather going across my face, and that's her energy that I feel. And then the next step is she shows me an image. So the image she showed me yesterday was a pickle. So I go, really? A pickle? But she does have a sense of humor. So this was her message. So picture in your mind a pickle as I read this. Everybody knows what a pickle looks like, but it can also be used to describe a difficult decision to make, or to describe a difficult situation. As in the sayings, this is a real pickle, or I'm in a real pickle. What you are going through, and we are here to assist you. Why did we choose a pickle for this message? Because pickles are not scary. We come in today to remind you there is always hope. And even if you feel you are in a pickle, it is not that scary. You possess the power to choose, to change, and to correct any and all pickles. How? We have said this before, and we will say it again and again. Sit quietly and listen. I just, the simplicity of that was just so beautiful. So, okay, so today, for my card reading, because I did talk about my sacred trips and to sacred sites, I have my Sacred Traveler deck. So I'm going to draw a card, and I always draw a card with the intention that this message is for everybody, from the highest good and for the highest good. So I'm going to shuffle these, and I will read the card that comes out and hope that it resonates with you and is timely. They always are. So, okay, so let me shuffle these. Okay, so here we go. Oops, sorry, that's the instruction card. Okay. Blessings. And it says, blessings are showering your life. So again, it's not the pickles that are coming at you. It's blessings. Blessings come in many different varieties. And even when we think, oh, my prayers weren't answered, or no one's listening to me, it's like that old Garth Brooks song, sometimes the greatest gifts of God are unanswered prayers. So just know that the blessings are coming to you. Open your arms. Stay in a state of gratitude. Don't get caught in that state of, and this is important, the victim. Poor, pitiful me. Everything goes against me. I'm in a bad way. Because remember, like attracts like. So if you stand in gratitude, then you attract more blessings. So it's kind of a simple card. And I have a few extra minutes. So I'm going to pull another one for you guys because I think it's important. Rarely do I get to pull two cards for you on my podcast. So let's see what the second card says here. Whoops, and that one came flying out. Oh. Okay. Oh my gosh. Yep, that's why I had to draw it. It says faraway places. Get ready for new horizons. Now, I don't know if you who are listening to me are travelers. But if you ever get the opportunity to go and experience these power spots, not hot spots, these power spots, that are around and well known, please do. But if you can't get there, sit in the power is what they call it. And that's when you sit to meditate and you try to raise your vibration and you have that connection anyway with spirit. I like to physically go to these sites because um, things change for me. Every site, something changes. And then I meet the most incredible people too. So expand your horizons though, too. I know that we don't have to travel to these places. Sometimes it's a good book or a book about it. Books take us away too. It's our minds. So travel to these faraway places and expand your horizons. Expand what can be and what is. And that's what we need to do. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. I hope you enjoyed my my discussion. Opportunity to go, I would highly recommend it. So I thank you again for joining me, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye bye now.